There we go. Okay. Whew. That was crazy. Hi! First day of the new month. And my microphone completely shits itself. See, I've got this thing called a kitten, and the microphone sits right over the kitten's bed, and the kitten has been occasionally, when I'm not looking, chewing on the microphone, and it's getting old, this microphone, and the connection, the USB connection at the back of it is not that great. I've probably got to go to a that other type of connection. Oh, round two, yep. Hey Brian, hey Damien, hey Darkstrider, hey Jam the Use, Green Scythe, The Boot, The Horn King, Adrianeth, Comic Nut, Stanch Skate, Mark R, Moonring, Ruby. I'm doing good now, thanks. Hey Mr. Eccentric. It is a long time since you caught a stream. Nice to see you. Yeah, luckily my cat doesn't chew up cords, which is good. Working like a charm, excellent. For the drow, yeah, it's Lolth. Tough start for the stream, yeah, was a tough start. I had a super chat went through there that unfortunately got lost in the works. Nice. It's always the drow. Commission somebody to turn the sketchy connection into an illustrative one. Nice. Hey Kairos. Dog, have I ever DM'd a campaign that derailed on accident within the first 48 minutes? If so, got any tips for my friend? How did it derail? That's the question. That is the question, because there's a million different answers. Yeah, the spider videos have been quite popular. Squirrels. We're lucky we don't have squirrels here. We've got possums. You've only caught 5 streams. Well, they are at somewhat different times. Hey, Tozoth. Never made it to the live streams because I don't get notified despite the bell. P.S. My fiance hates spiders and hates I'm learning on them for my campaign when she plays. Oh, nice. Yeah, Bree is a very good kitty. She's a very good kitty. She's totally house trained. She took to wearing a collar just like with no problem whatsoever. She scratched it at once because she didn't like the bell when it flipped over and touched her neck. But other than that, she's like it's like she's been a cat before. She just automatically does cat stuff. Why does this Iblyth constantly request that I tread upon him? New Zealand microchips. Yeah, it does. Yep. She hasn't been microchipped or spayed and vaccinated yet. She's just been inside with me in isolation, so to speak. But she's now large enough to get all of the shots and stuff like that. I wanted to put on some growth and be nice and healthy before I took her in for all of her vaccinations and stuff. She is a kitten with an old soul. Who would win, Lolth or Demogorgon? Demogorgon. Well, it's a bit tricky because Lolth is now a god, and Demogorgon is not. But even gods don't mess with Demogorgon. The tricky thing with the notifications for the live streams is, I guess I've just basically got to signpost the live streams and schedule them so that they YouTube can notify people properly. Oh, you and your friend accidentally crashed the ship over a month away from your destination. Have you tried being attacked by inept pirates and then stealing their ship? That's what I do. Or like a ship that comes along that all of the crew have been killed by Sahuagin and the ship is just basically carried on sailing off in a random direction. So you basically get this free ship just arrives. The players aren't going to go, well, that's not very realistic. They're just going to go, yay, free ship. I guarantee it. Do I think Zugmoy could become a god? Yes, very much so. Why does AO tolerate the devils and demons? He doesn't really, but he doesn't have control over the multiverse. He's only got control over Faerun and realm space. So he's an overgod of one planet. He's not the overgod of the multiverse of D&D. You've seen videos of feral cats getting mushy when swarmed by kittens. Yeah. So Bree's mum is essentially a feral cat. So she was a rescue from a litter. So I think she's taken to being like, she still reacts to everything. Like if anything drops or makes a noise, her first instinct is to just take off. But she's very tenacious and curious. And she learns very quickly. So I've got this little enrichment exercise where I get a tea box and I put a dried salmon fillet in there. And then her job is to find the tea box and then extract the fillet from the inside the box, which she's getting pretty good at. Sea elves from the local village. Yep, that's another option. Oh, what revolution? Accidentally turning some druids into bone scarecrows. Yeah, you got to put all of your comment in one big thing, dude. You can't split it up because it gets lost in the crowd. A minor revolution where the poor people on an airship attacked the rich people with help from the guards, and accidentally attack caused me scaring the captain, making him ally with the cultists. Oh, I see. Well, part of the problem is making the campaign get derailed by actions on board the ship. I would say have the ship suddenly crash at the destination, like it slowly but inevitably crash lands at the location somehow. Or there's a portal, or there's a dragon that attacks the ship and drags it to close to the destination, or where you crash land there just happens to be a transport option. But make it so that the characters are going to lose something in order to get there. Because they pretty much just ruined their chance of getting a free ride there, essentially. So if they crash their ship, there's got to be consequences for that delay, you know, because it was their actions which caused it. Thanks, Comic Nut. Hey AJ, in honour of Spider Week, here's a fun fact. The spiders in the movie Arachnophobia used spiders from New Zealand. Yeah, those were Avondale spiders, which are essentially a form of huntsman spider which have become native to the Auckland Waikato region. Because huntsman spiders tend to stick with one location. They don't travel around a lot. So where they arrived in New Zealand, they pretty much stayed and become native to just like the Auckland area. I've seen Avondale spiders. Huntsman spiders aren't dangerous. What are we talking about today? I had to refresh my app. Yeah, William, we're talking about pointy ears and pointy arrows. So today we're talking about elves and the fact that I'm just about to start finally doing lore videos on elves. After I do the next video, which is on Lolth, and it's probably going to take me a few days to produce, then we're going to start talking about some elves. Also, I'm going to like occasionally just break off and do a video that I want to do. But this month it's going to be talking about elves and elven stuff. There's a lot of elven stuff to cover, obviously, because they're a major race of Dungeons and Dragons. Yep, elves and Spelljammer, elves in everything, the whole works. Oh, Phoenix, okay, sorry. Let's have a look. That was the super chat. From Rado Steer, thank you for a lot for the greatest inspiration you provide us. I'm currently revisiting your videos on the Nine Hells and Devils for building up an adventure. They're so good. Oh, awesome. I'm glad you enjoy it, Rado. Thank you. A bone devil is hiding in the ship. Nice. Darth Vader in D&D. Yep, quite possible. Elves! I know, it's your favourite, William. We are back. That's true. Elves. Me, the dwarf, scoffs. Yeah. Yeah, Green Scythe. I'm doing videos on wild elves, green elves, silver nesty elves. The works. Minus 25 degrees Celsius in Montreal. Enjoy my summer. My summer has hit 39 degrees in places in New Zealand. It's ridiculous. Yeah, probably a lot of stuff on elven magic, particularly elven high magic. It's necessary to talk about elven magic because we've got to talk about the sundering and that sort of stuff. In the LOL video, are you going to touch on the crown wars and the bloody violent mess that is elven history? Poor dark elves, the old ones, that is. Yeah. It's going to be from Lolth's perspective, so it's going to be from the mythology and stuff of Lolth. So it'll touch on events on the real world that impacted the astral realm and the astral gods, you know. It's a lot to unpack there, Tyzoth. Group used Hell Soul energy to blast a demon lord to the abyss, creating a one-way to Hell portal for non-good aligned beings. What effects would happen around it? Adult Green Dragon moved in nearby. Well, the Adult Green Dragon would probably take an advantage of it to manipulate people. Hard to say, really. If it's just pulling people in, it might not necessarily have any emanations itself. So it could be relatively harmless apart from people who are of a lawful evil alignment. How to deal with an elven mother-in-law. Weren't you going to make a video about blight dragons? I'm going to make videos about everything eventually. You're 1/8 elf on your mother's side. Could you do a Bionoid since they're created by elves? Maybe. Any plans for a video about the Wells of Darkness? Not currently. Favourite Demon Lord? Probably Grast at the moment. Surprised that the Demon Hunter spiders haven't been mentioned. Well, I've talked about Bebelith in the past, I think. Elves are the Thrykeen's favourite meal, that's true. You're making a fish tank right now. Nice one, Moonring. Are you going to fill it with... I'm not going to even say it. Elves of Palladium? Probably not. Elves, aristocratic jerks that make magical disasters that their own gods have to fix and yet never punish them for screwing the other races. Well, Corellin is quite a distant creator god from the elves. They are everywhere like cockroaches, it's true. I'm going to be starting doing the elves this month. So from probably the end of this week or next week. I actually tried to talk to Elaine Cunningham about some aspects of elven history, William, and her answer was just go to the forums and ask them there. She's really not interested in talking about it with me, which is fine. I don't begrudge her that. She's an active writer. She's in the process of creating other novels and things like that, so she doesn't have time to go back and revisit something that she wrote 20 years ago, 30 years ago even. It's too small for them. So yeah, I can't really draw on her wisdom in that regard. I guess she'll just say that like all the questions that you are asking are in the official sources. So yeah, go and do the work yourself, which is fair enough. Oof, there's a lot of comments going on here. How many of you got? 103 viewers in here right now. You're rather fond of wood elves? Yep, they're not too bad. So high elves look humanish, wood elves look more wild. I wouldn't go that far, no. High elves don't look like humans. Like superficially, in illustrations and things like that, they look like humans, yes. They have 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth in relatively the same places. In earlier editions, they sort of illustrated that elves have got eyes which are very much sort of tilted upwards, like oval sort of eyes that are quite different from human eyes in their position on the face, sort of thing. And their whole body and stuff is much more supple and youthful and baby-like. Like their skin is softer and more vital, and it stays that way for a very long time. And so while they appear quite delicate and frail, they're not. They're just as strong as most other humanoids, and they're very, very agile as a sort of biological thing. Culturally, they train in the use of the longsword and the longbow and stuff, just as part of their culture as they grow up. It's part of their lessons in just hunting and respect for the land, movement, respect for their martial traditions, the defense of the village, that sort of thing. So it's very much tied in with their culture. So greetings from Christchurch. Hey, Nuclear Vanity. So if you are an elf or a non-elf and you're raised in elven society, you will learn how to use a longsword and longbow. It's just part of their culture. Hey, Donald Smead, thank you. You're alive. I'm thinking about making a campaign with a human town. Think Chinatown, San Francisco, whom everyone is racist towards. Any suggestions? No, it seems like you have your own agenda there. Why are they bigoted towards them? By the way, it's if they're not a different race than the people that they're hating, it's just bigotry. It's not racism. Why are they racist towards them? Yeah, Elaine Cunningham, and this is the thing with a lot of the other Forgotten Realms writers, Ed Greenwood and Eric Boyd and George Krashos and all sorts of others. They come from a different era of sort of the public involvement in Dungeons and Dragons, and they've been bombarded with a lot of questions over a long period of time. And from their point of view, it's like we're asking them very specific questions about stuff that they sort of just put out as a frontier. Like when Ed was writing Forgotten Realms, Thay wasn't even described. It was described later on by other writers and stuff. And sometimes they'll just be like, well, you can't understand what the gods are doing. We don't know what Lolth's motivations are. You can't fight Lolth. She's an idea. The gods' motives are unknowable, And then, on the other hand, 5 minutes later, they'll say, well, the god has got rivalry with another god, and blah, 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 and they're acting in a very sort of humanoid way. And you say, well, there's a contradiction in what your attitude is with people asking these questions. On the one hand, when you're writing things, you look at it from a very specific point of view. But when people ask you questions about it, you just get all vague and say, well, it's really up to you. You draw this veil of deflection. So my job as like a lore historian and scholar and sage who condenses this information and presents it to you, and occasionally comes across gaps in it where I want to ask specific questions of these guys, I will run into this barrier of deflection. So really, I excuse myself from occasionally just inserting my own ideas and putting and joining the dots together, even if it's not highly official. I think I'm pretty well positioned to be a person who can sort of throw details in there where they don't exist in existing lore. As long as I kind of point out to people what I'm doing, I think it's okay. And of course, you can take it or leave it, and you can take and leave any bit of lore that you come across and change whatever you want. I encourage it. Aiden, thank you. It's Minnie's opinion that elves are uninteresting to roleplay. I disagree. Yeah, do you agree or have information that would make them more interesting? In your opinion, is there a version of the elves from other settings that is more interesting than Forgotten Realms elves? No, I find elves fascinating. They've got this long and rich history and this sort of culture which is migrating away from their involvement in that world. I love the idea that has been sort of carried over from Tolkien that elves have travelled to that world from somewhere else and they carry on travelling. They're a sort of nomadic, nature orientated, ephemeral entities that are just sort of touching on the world and they bring magic to it. And the loss of the elves when they move away is this loss of this history, and they leave behind lots of secrets, and they're also sort of taking a lot of the magic out of the world with them. So I like that sort of Fey connection. I like that poise and secrecy and consideration of the elves, the complexities of their character, the incredibly complex family relationships you can have with beings which live for hundreds and hundreds of years. So, and they will grow up knowing their great 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 grandmother, and that sort of thing. So their perspective on history and their relationships with each other can be incredibly nuanced. Kind of like how you would imagine a couple of vampires would get to know each other really, really well over a long, long period of time. And they would see so many of the lesser races that they would have to look at them as lesser races come and go. Like even the greatest and most memorable humans, their memory and their legacy would fade, and elves would be left with, on occasion, even in Lord of the Rings, when Aragorn was talking with Eowyn, and she realised that he was 80 years old, and that he fought at the same battle as her grandfather, sort of thing. Elves would face that issue every day, where humans are talking about, they're singing a popular song which is actually a misrepresentation of something that happened that they were at with people that they knew, and they're left in a position where they're like, oh, humans don't know anything, but they have to mind their manners when they're around humans and bite their tongue and not correct them all the time, because they'll get into a fight because the humans are like, what do you know? It's like, I was there. Yeah. So there's that. And then, of course, elves have their own culture. They have their own centers of learning and stuff like that. And humans generally sometimes won't be welcome because they're brash and boorish. They might see it as a waste of time to educate humans. Let's see, I've got to look for Donald's follow-up to his... They just showed up from a portal. There are other humans who have been there for a while, but there are cultural differences, like the amount of trash they produce. Okay, well that's workable. So they'll be saying, go back to the world you came from, sort of thing. Well, that's the fear of the outsider, essentially. So people fear what that they don't understand, and they see them as not sharing their cultural values and things like that. I think the best way to handle that in a role-playing aspect is you've always got to take it down to a personal level, and the personal level will be providing a means for some of those individuals and their ignorance and bigotry to start to understand that other culture and where they come from. And then the interesting thing is you have people who are now on your side, and the challenge from a role-playing perspective is to grow that understanding into the wider community and make, in effect, actual social change. And you do that through your heroism and your deeds and not conforming and being what people expect from those sort of worst aspects of human ignorance, not affirming any of the false ideas they have about people. So the player's challenge is to be on their best behaviour. Give me a demon that's in cahoots with my big bad evil guy elf. What sort of elf? Succubi are great. Shadow demons are great. Anytime an elf thinks that they're in control of a supernatural creature that's actually in control of them, always a good opportunity. Forgotten Realms, in comparison to Tolkien elves were more robust and human-like in their size, and Forgotten Realms elves are supposed to be a bit shorter. But a lot of people basically just sort of ignore that. Like the Drow, for instance, were quite short compared to humans. Just, more slight. Sorry, Stanchgate. Where is it? There it is. What do you think about the move to call races lineages instead and put the +2 and +1 anywhere you like? I think it's a good move for the hobby in general. It's the trend has always been towards that, away from the rigid control and limitations that classes and races had in Basic and AD&D. Like all of the like requirements that you had to have to play the sort of character that you wanted to play. Like to be a cavalier, you had to have certain attributes and all that sort of stuff. And then in 3rd edition, it was all of the prerequisite feats that you had to have in order to go into the specific class that you wanted to specialize in. Prestige classes, so you're kind of locked into this track without any sort of freedom to do to adapt to the campaign. Because you're pursuing this particular prestige class, and that always felt like it was railroady and it was boring to play that sort of thing. A lot of people really love the combination of feats and using feats to unlock certain abilities, or bouncing feats off each other to have amazing effects with the combos and things. But the way feats were everything was split up into little incremental bits that you had to take each level. Was really it sucked. It drained all the fun out of it. In 5th edition, I really like the skill packages that is feats. So when you get a feat for archery, it's assumed that you know all these little other things, which in 3rd edition would have been split up into all these different feats that you had to spend your slots on as you went up in level. In 5th edition, the feats are a lot more comprehensive. So if you take a feat for archery, you're generally like, I'm really good at firing arrows. I spend a lot of time firing arrows. It's what I do. It's what I'm known for. So it's a feat of skill. And there's not a lot of prerequisites and stuff based around those feat packages. Same thing with culture and heritage and biology and things like that. Like, it's possible to be an elf that's raised in a dwarven culture, or an elf that's raised in a human culture, and that would have a major impact on your abilities and attitudes. There would always be, I think, that draw to understand who you biologically are, because there's so many differences biologically between an elf or a dwarf and a human, that it's never going to be a snug fit, even if they're raised from birth in that culture. There's always going to be differences that bother them fundamentally. I mean, look at people who have been adopted out of one family and into another sort of thing. They're always going to have that drive to know who their true birth parents were and things like that, and their true birth culture sort of thing. So that exists, but we need to have that option, that there is a difference between biology and culture and upbringing. So nurture and nature need to be separated in the rules and not so restrictive. And so I think in that regard, it's a logical step in the right direction that opens up more opportunities for diverse characters. Regardless of what you think about the politics and social drama of it, and people trumping up that whole objection to it for their own agendas, from a gaming perspective and from somebody who's been playing the game for a long period of time, it makes logical sense, and it's just a progression of everything which has been building up to this in the first place. So I think it's time for it to happen. People complaining about it would be complaining about anything, What did the drow look like before they got cursed? They looked exactly the same. The Illitheri were Dark Elves. Yeah, they were Dark Elves before they were Drow. Yeah. They're undermining biological essentialism with ancestry system. It's not a system. It's there's plenty of examples of it in real world. No funny accent equals no orc. Yeah, here's the main difference. You can be raised, imagine you're a full-blooded orc who's raised in human society because you were found as a baby and you try to get by and live in their culture. Yeah, your biology is going to, let's say you get into a friendly football match or something like that, kickball with the local kids. And they range in age from 12 to 15. You're a 14-year-old orc. You're an adult, right? That's a huge biological difference. So, okay, let's make it on a level playing field. The human kids and stuff are levels ages 12 to 15. You're a 6-year-old orc who's the same size as they are. You haven't had the same time to learn all the social niceties and stuff like that. You've got a child's emotions. Not only that, but you've got an adrenal system built for combat and survival, that if one of those kids says the wrong things or bashes you or something like that, that kid's going to wind up with a broken arm. Now you're reaffirming all the stereotypes that orcs are faced with in society. Your parents come down on you. It's a real pain in the ass. You don't understand because you're 6 years old. It's a huge difference. So biological is very, very important, but cultural is also extremely important. So yes, they would have impacts on your character sheet, independent of each other. The combinations are fantastic. A half-orc raised in dwarven society, a dwarf who's raised by elves. Why not? Like Carrot from Discworld. Exactly, Stansgate. Exactly. The Illitheri had brown shade black skin and elf-coloured eyes. The Drow have grey shade black skin with predominantly red eyes. That's probably because they got tied in with the phase rest energy. So these days, Corellin has essentially opened up Arvandor to the Dark Elves who are no longer associated with, who have chosen not to follow the Drow and Lolth, essentially. So there's actually been a major shake-up in Elven society and religion where there's a path for the Illitheri to actually become the Illitheri again. A half-orc raised by dwarves, yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at some of the famous characters that we've got. Catti is a human who was raised as a dwarf. Bruenor also adopted the war captive, Wolfgar. And his most epic magical item that he ever created himself with his own two hands was given to Wolfgar. And it became an object which was so famous, and Wolfgar was so well regarded as a legendary figure, a hero and a leader of their people, that there became quite a bit of a problem between the Battlehammer clan dwarves and the Rigged barbarians, that they considered that to be their property rather than Bruenor's property. Yeah. Caused by quite a bit of a conflict there. Thanks, Brian. Would nurture really affect elves? I thought their soul perpetually reincarnated after 50 to 100 years, they just become themselves again. It's much more complicated than that. Obviously, they've got these tie-ins, but a lot of that reincarnation thing is based on meditation that they learn from elven culture. Humans don't meditate to rest, so and elves can actually sleep a normal sleep like human beings, but they learn through culture and stuff to meditate to rest, and that's where this deep connection with their past lives, and that sort of stuff comes in. For those people who haven't actually got experience with past life regression and that sort of new age movement and those sort of yogi techniques and stuff that have been turned into a westernized sort of thing, there's a lot of complexity to it, nuance to it. So it's something that is learned by elves. It's not automatically going to happen to them. And you're free to ignore a lot of the things that that were sort of included in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. That's Mordenkainen's point of view. He may be wrong. Oh, I'm still in the I kind of got distracted from the Barry-Orr video, Barraborn. A Dwarven Rune Knight, yeah. Hopefully I'll get back to it. That was a very good question, Brian. Hey, Spike. They did that in some giant ritual that rebuilt an Eleutheri city, right? Yeah. A lot of the stuff is, obviously, before I start doing these videos, there's a lot of stuff about elven culture that I don't yet know because I haven't researched it and read through all the literature. So don't go asking me very specific questions about elves before I even put the videos out, because I just don't know. I'm in the same boat as you. I make these videos to learn. So, yeah, yogis, not the bear. That's so racist. Aiden, bouncing off my first question, what advice would you give a player in order to roleplay a Forgotten Realms elf more interestingly or correctly? Take the time to actually go to a wiki page and look at elven history. Just the bare basics, what the Crown Wars were, what the Gold Elves and the Silver Elves and that sort of thing are. And include that in your curiosity of your characters. Like, they're going to be really interested in their history. And when they come across bits of their history, like that is hundreds of years old, they're going to have respect for it. They're going to want to return it to their culture because their culture is leaving that land. So they're going to take it to a place where it can travel to Evermeet to be with other cultural iconic relics, so that they can all share in it, Elves can go to afterlives like Arcadia or Elysium. Yes, they can. Humans can meditate to rest, it's true. Yeah, I don't like this idea of elves being like restricted in their afterlife and stuff, because that would suck. Yeah, Torald does have a lot of cultures to choose from. Oh yeah, Dog. This is the regular chat. It's very chill. 139 people just talking about nerdy stuff is amazingly cohesive. Thoughts on Shiva, god of and creator of yoga? Does he exist in D&D? Yeah, it does. Faiths and well, where are we? I've got a book on it somewhere. It's one of the old ones. I don't know where I've left it. I think I was reading it the other day. Deities and Demigods talks about like lots of different religions, mythologies, and that sort of thing. Romanthan was the city I was thinking of. It's in the High Moor, the ritual that killed Kelvin Aronson. Oh. Are there bronze, brass, and copper elves, or is that only for dragons? Yeah, no, it's not a literal interpretation of metallic elves. It's not restricted, it's tradition. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that elves would want to go and be with their people, right? If you could go to an afterlife, which is essentially a gated community. Now thinking about the elves dying and going to the Feywild, like the devil goes to the hells when slain. No, it's not like that at all. Moonring, thank you. No, probably not, because that was a very specific 4th edition conceit that was tied in with what's the name of the planet? The planet from 4th edition that had the Tiefling and Dragonborn empires and the fallen empire of Narath, the world of Narath. That's specific to the Narath multiverse, sphere, whatever. So no, it's a different kettle of fish. It's way too confusing to talk about some of the 4th edition complete breaks from the lore because there's no tie-ins with it. Like, Asmodeus cannot be like the head angel of a god that he killed. There's just no, it just doesn't work. It would have to be an aspect of Asmodeus in another dimension where radically different things happened. The Avatar series is a must-read for anyone interested in how the gods and AO play politics. Yep. Yeah, exactly, Voices from the Dark. Wouldn't you think a human would want an old elf as the head of a human library, since to him the human past is the elf current history? Yeah. So if you're an elf and you can study up on elven history and human history particularly, you've got a huge advantage. James, we do have Starbucks in New Zealand. I think their food is probably fine. It's a bit pricey. Their coffee is way too sweet. That's all I got to say on Starbucks. I like the atmosphere of Starbucks though. Sitting down and like plugging in your computer and actually working at Starbucks is fairly pleasant. Particularly the one in Hamilton that I went to was quite nice. I'm looking forward to trying Starbucks in different cities. I've got my eye on eventually moving to Dunedin in New Zealand because Dunedin is cold and it's got lots of stone buildings, and I like cold weather. Genie and Hag remake, yep, and Drow video remake, yep. So yeah, elves would be in a good position to take up a retirement position at a library or a body of an institution of learning. They make excellent instructors. Of course, part of the advantage of being an elf is that they have that cultural understanding of longsword and longbow. Of course, their traditions and techniques are very set. Like, so elven sword play would be like classic karate, whereas human sword play might be more of a jujitsu, ninjutsu sort of thing, where they combine, or Krav Maga sort of thing. So the elf would be like, duh, 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 and then the human does something weird, and the elf is just like, you don't do that. That's stupid. It's like the human's like, you're only doing that because you've got a faster reaction speed than me. If you're a human, you wouldn't have caught that. And the elf would be like, think about it for a few days, and then they'll be sitting there having a cup of tea and be like, yes. I agree. A lot of times elves would probably just be like, they would consider a question that the human puts to them. Like, it might be something they've never thought of before, and they really ponder it. To the human, it would be like the elf just refuses to answer the question. They deflect. They're like, how about this thing? And then a couple of days later, they would bring it back up again and answer the question. To an elf, that would be normal. Can abominations get into the afterlives that most other creatures can, or do they have their own afterlives? Good question. I don't know. Yeah, the jury's really out. I'm surprised I don't get that question more often. It's like, do beholders have an afterlife? Like, where do beholders' souls go when they die? I don't know. So how's that from a point of view, right? You could end up in the nine hells and be talking to a chain devil that was once a beholder in its mortal life. They probably end up being demons mostly. Humans strong. Yeah. We win by cheating. Yeah. Well, humans just sort of bash, go at it and rely on basic heroism and unexpected drive and tenacity. AJ, what's the most vile, evil, and wretched monster in the entire D&D franchise? Probably a Baneloth, I would say. 4th edition never happened. I wouldn't say 4th edition never happened. It's got some good stuff in it. I'm just saying you can take or leave a lot of it. Thanks, amigo Roberto. Would they have to have a soul? That's a good question too. I mean, if you think about the fact that some beholders are generated just from the dreams of other beholders, they are essentially sentient spells. Does a spell have a soul? No. So I guess maybe the beholders don't. The Illithids do have a god. They've got a few. There's Il Sensine. Yeah, maybe the beholders don't die per se. It's just the astral dreadnought wakes up from his daydream. I like it. Yeah, maybe they do merge back with the astral dreadnought. Nice one. Somebody's been paying attention. A scroll of beholder. Imagine that, casting beholder. Awesome. Beholder just gets cast, wakes up, goes, huh? There's no possible way I was just summoned from nothing. I was always here. You've just blanked my memory, you bastards. Where do the deeper Mascari think they go when they die? Oh, they probably have their own views. They'll be somewhat twisted. We don't really know a lot about the deep Eleutheri, the deep Mascari. So I had my theory on what Thune could be, but we don't really know Fistimus. It could be anything, really. You like Star Wars Saga pre-4th edition? D6 Star Wars was great. I don't really like the whole dice pool thing with the Star Wars latest edition. It's okay. I'll play Call of Cthulhu, and I like Call of Cthulhu, but I won't play Call of Cthulhu every week, and I won't play Star Wars every week. I'll stretch a stretch of it. I will play Warhammer 40k role-playing games every week. That's a role-playing system I really like, and I really like the setting and environment of it and the attitude. So that's one of my go-tos, and I will play Palladium daily if I ever get the opportunity. Palladium will always have a very close connection to my heart. Can I do a vid on the Illithid Pantheon? I can do. I like that Guanadao is chilling in the same realm as the Illithid and Beholder deity. That can't be good. Yeah, it raises some interesting questions. If Guanadao and Dublex are aspects of Tharizdun, for instance, and even Obox Ob being an aspect of Tharizdun instead of actually an Oberth. Because when you think about it, and this is something that I put in a comment just this morning, I think, all of these things are figments of Tharizdun's imagination that were inspired by a psychic signal sent to him through the filter of the far realm, beyond possibility, in another multiverse. And his imagination is, what if there was a species that was trying to recreate the multiverse against the god's wishes, against my wishes? And that madness of his, that split where his own imagination manifested itself, his own nightmare manifested itself in the multiverse that he created, he wanted to just destroy it all and remake it, and all the other gods banded up against him and trapped him in a prison of his own imagination. And so you've got these other entities, incredibly old and vast, Gynadal being one of them, where they have knowledge of what was around before the multiverse was created. So they know what the Drayden are and things. And all the elves and all the gods are just manifestations of the astral realm. See, Tharizdun wanted to keep the gods separated from everything. So he created the astral dreadnoughts to keep a very clear divide, like a German wall between the afterlife and the astral realm and the creatures that were responsible for manifesting it. So it's interesting. Thanks, Adrianeth. One species of elves I've been curious about is the breed that were naturally lycanthropes, no hybrid form. I'm blanking on the name. Yeah. Yes, them. Also the winged elves. Nobody talks about the winged elves. Nobody talks about the winged elves in Faerun right now. I'm going to be talking about the winged elves. No, this is not related to what the elves, but what would happen if a Slard infected a beholder? The offspring would die. I don't think the egg would germinate. I see you use prophetic prism as a cover for the stream. Yeah, true. Yeah, rogues don't have to be evil. There's no alignment restrictions on character classes anymore. Never should have been. There are a lot of gods with eyes for a symbol. Coincidence? What's my favourite elf-themed magic item? It's got to be one of the... Well, Boots of Elvenkind have always been awesome. I love their use of chainmail. They've created lots of magical longswords, obviously. And I guess there needs to be more elven bows of legend. It surprises me, actually, that there isn't like a synonymous elven longbow magical item. Probably one of the greatest contributions of theirs is just the ritual magic. Elven high magic itself is awesome. But yeah, otherwise, Boots of Elvenkind have always been a stock favourite. I knew I didn't dream the winged elves. No, it's true. They really do exist. Lithari, that's it. Thank you, Sir William. There's always Talshara, the most powerful weapon ever made in D&D. I'm not familiar. By the way, any songs that you are adding to your personal soundtrack from the new Discord channel? Oh yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Aiden. Aiden had a really good suggestion, which was to add to my Discord server a channel where people can post their links to soundtracks and music that they like using in their game sessions. So I'd ask that people, like, if you want to, describe what you use that music for in your game sessions, whether it's like shanties and things like that for like an ocean thing, or whether it's good tavern music to have in the background, or whether it's like just general traveling through the wilderness, or just like general background cool music that you like to listen to while you're playing games. What's your opinion on the Theros piety system? I haven't really delved into Theros in great detail yet, Macnac. I've been kind of busy, but I'll get there. Thanks, Adrianeth. You're being very generous today. Winged elves were flying snacks for dragons. That's why nobody talks about them. Do you want to see a dragon hangry for a near extinct snack? The dragons ruled elven kingdoms on occasion. There's probably a bit of snacking going on. The Avarial, yeah, thank you. That's their name. Is an oath bow an elven item? Oh, yeah. How can the helm of opposite alignment best be used? With consent. There is one in Baldur's Gate 2, Winged Elf. Ah, nice. Magic item creation contest. Magic items created for elves. I like it. What's my favourite prestige class for an elf? Elfiest elf. Super elf. I'm the elvenest elf that ever elfed. Ultra elf. Elf purist. Oh, that's one interesting thing. In those of you who have caught my video on the Great Dale, around that region, those forest elves there are very like insular and stuff. And there's mention about there's a movement with the elves existing on Faerun, not very popular amongst elves, and also kind of like looked down on as like very faux pas sort of thing, where there's actually these elven supremacists who want to exterminate all humans and take back Faerun. That exists in the Forgotten Realms. So, like, you know, Aunt Petunia down the street who makes cookies for the kids could be an elf supremacist. And it's like, I could poison these children. You know, like, elves over a cup of tea. Yes, we could poison the well. We could just sterilize them. We wouldn't have to kill them. The multiverse includes the Far Realms and Phlogiston? Yep. Oh, I missed that comment by Fistimus. Where is it? Spike, tell me of this Tal'Shara. Before Tharizdun was driven mad, he was basically the god of structure and order. So he determined where the end of things was, if that makes sense. So entropy and ending. So barriers. Here's the barrier between this plane and the next one. He split the one dimension multiverse where everything existed in the same sort of plane, where elves and humans and all that stuff first came from. And then he divided and separated things. That's why he separated the astral realm from the rest of the multiverse. Literally separated thought from reality. So instead of just everybody being able to manifest whatever they wanted in a void of chaos stuff, where there were no limitations on anything, he created limits. If that makes sense. That's my interpretation of it anyway. Ite, yes, I'm definitely going to be doing a video about the Formians at some point. I really like the Formians, actually. Thanks, Sir William. Adrianus isn't wrong. The majority of the Avarials died defending the Elven Citadel where the Draco Rage Mythal was erected. Avarials were major players in its creation. As we shall discover. I'm looking forward to the Elven videos because there's a lot of lore about the Elves that I just don't know yet. Sir William's got me at a distinct disadvantage. At the end of this, Sir William, we might actually be on a level playing field. I doubt it, but we'll try. I'll try. Error. What would you do with a wish spell in real life? Depends on the limitations of the wish spell, really. I'd like to get rid of the coronavirus. That would be nice. Oh, create a instantaneous language translation device. That'd be really nice for everybody. Everyone, everywhere, for free. Or how about a virus that allows everyone suddenly to understand everyone else's spoken language, no matter what they say? Oh, a telepathy virus. That'd be cool. Imagine that. You shouldn't give me a wish. It's a bad idea. Godzilla versus Cthulhu. Who would win? Cthulhu, obviously. Godzilla can't cast magic. Tharizdun was the Lord of Order before Mechanus and Asmodeus. I wouldn't say Asmodeus is the Lord of Order, but yeah. Mechanus really, Primus kind of stepped in and took care of a lot of stuff. He was responsible for trying to create a divine superhighway where all of the outer planes of existence became locked together. So the object that created the Slard, the spawning stone, was an artifact that Primus created to try and stabilize Limbo. Yeah, mind-blowing cosmic engineering. Just found this for the Beholder discussion. Read SJR2 Realm Space Skull of the Void, page 54. Oh, okay. Could I do a video on the origin of humans in D&D? Humans are considered to be of the first world. So when the multiverse was recreated, humans got sort of dragged along with it. There's conflicting parts of it, though, because during the Age of Thunder, humans were quite primitive, and they advanced very rapidly, thanks to existing around the same time that the Thunder Beasts did. There's also a bit of a question about whether the biological experimentation by the aboleths and other creatures that ruled during the Blue Age, when the world was covered in water, actually advanced other species by default, like they released mutagens into the environment and humans rapidly evolved. Then during the Sarok Empire, the humans kind of separated and went off to what is now Karashaka, was the realm that was where Karashaka was connected to the mainland, and Karashaka was the center of human involvement. So most of the really ancient artifacts of human culture on Faerun are on Karashaka. They're not on the main continent itself anymore. So back when it was a supercontinent, Karashaka was where humans dwelled during the Sarok's reign, and the Batraki and the Aerie. It's complicated. So there you go. There's a refresher. You just wish people were no longer stupid. Good luck. Yeah, wish for a Babelfish. I like it. The translation microbes from Farscape. I mean, I can imagine a situation where a bunch of bacteria interpret neural signals as plasmids. That would be very complicated. No. Too hard to do. Be prepared. AJ has access to resources I don't. I'm about to lose my role as Office Elf Sage. You will always be my Elf Sage, William. Where were you in 1987 when all my players only wanted to be elves? I began D&D in 1980 and ran a campaign from 1989 to 2000 with the same players. Nice. Still good friends with all of them, I bet. Well, I didn't really do a video on the origins of humans per se. You love the super chats in the background where you can join in that fun. There's a study that says COVID crosses the blood-brain. Who knows what it is. Yeah. Well, we don't know the long-term effects of COVID exposure. Maybe it could give us superpowers. You have tenure. It can't be revoked. Exactly. You have tenure. You're just going to have to study more. Is it possible for more than one overgod to rule over one crystal sphere? I suppose so. All the crystal spheres are not very uniform. They're quite different. Like when you create a new crystal sphere, the contents of it are really up to you. Some of them are solid and just have big caverns that people live in, not planets. Isn't that interesting? You mentioned Warhammer 40k a lot. Do you have an army? No, I don't play the... I've tried. I've never actually played a game of Warhammer 40k on a tabletop with the figurines and tape measures and that sort of stuff. I would love to, but I've never actually done that. Maybe when I move to Dunedin, I'll get into it and actually play some games with people. And whatever current edition they're playing, because I understand there's a lot of contention about that. But no, I'm a role player, right? I play the role-playing game versions of that. Somebody disliked the stream? Show yourself, villain. Has he? Eric Boyd's been mapping out all of the humanoid migrations during the Days of Thunder and... Oop, I lost it. And after really thoroughly. I'll see if he has anything to share. Please do. Oh, by the way, I tracked my progress on the channel, and I'm expecting that within 9 months the channel will hit 100,000 subscribers. You can accelerate this by helping me out if you wish. I'm really quite looking forward to it. You know, it's an accomplishment, particularly since I've been working towards it for 6 years or so. AJ, are you ever too critical? This is a very good question, John. Thank you for the super chat. Are you ever too critical of your own DMing? If so, where do you see the balanced line between good versus bad campaign writings? Sorry for vague questions. It's not a vague question. It's a very specific one, and one I quite appreciate. Yeah, I am very critical of my own DMing. These days, I think the main thing to learn as a really seasoned DM is that you can step back and give players time to just talk in character, and that it's very, very important for them to have that time to talk to each other in character and establish those relationships and really visualize who that person is that the other person is playing, and bouncing that role play off each other and having that opportunity to form a solid memory and knowledge of what they are at the table as a group. And it sets the tone for the entire campaign. If you don't do that and continually override what your players are saying amongst themselves and to each other, if you see a gap and leap into it every time and just sort of take over, it can be very, very destructive and disruptive to the game. And you will have players who become switched off and disinterested, and you'll think that it's the campaign and that's the writing. What it actually is your method of communication with them, which is the problem. So don't look so much towards the mechanics and the actual prose and stuff that you write and things. You don't really need to plan that much in advance. You don't need to plan every nitty-gritty little detail. You can wing a lot of it at the table. Just keep very good notes of what you're doing. That's the other thing that you learn. Ad-lib constantly, but keep notes of what you're ad-libbing so you can go back and be consistent. And tie in things that happen so the players realize that it's necessary to pay attention to the small details. In my campaigns, and this is something that my buddy Ian pointed out, that I've rubbed off on him, is that it's not the big world-shaking events and stuff, and it's not combats with big monsters that kill players. It's them losing track of the details of the world and real consequences of their actions coming back and biting them in the ass. So, for instance, you let them know that these barrels are full of highly flammable mutagenic oils, and then one of them at some point lets off a fireball in an enclosed room and explodes some of these barrels and everybody dies. It's like, well, the reason why that happened is because of your actions and not paying attention to the details of the background that I was describing to you. So yeah. Purge's the one that opposes the great AJ. For many years now, I've had a regular small squad of dislikers on my video, and I don't know who they are. I don't necessarily care. I kind of miss them if they went, actually. Aiming to reach critical mass of subscribers. Yeah, it's happening. Like, on average, the channel grows by about 1,600 people per month. So that's how I track that within 9 months or so, or 9.4 months, I'll hit 100,000 subscribers. But I imagine it's going to start to accelerate a bit by the time we get there. So I've shaved off that 4,800. Whoa, Adriana, what are you doing? Sending positivity your way, maybe time for a new mic. Yeah. I think it might be time for a new mic. I'll really miss this one. It is pretty good. Thank you so much. You're now the MVP of tips. You're on a par with Demon Inquisition as the 100 tip club. I need to make you a badge. 100 tip club. Yeah, everyone is their own biggest critic, and everyone has, at some point in their life, imposter syndrome. I have that on occasion when people say, you're so knowledgeable. It's like, well, really, I'm just relating stuff which is in the books that I'm researching when I'm making the videos. If you ask me next week about stuff that was in the last video I made, I've probably forgotten half of it, because I'm concentrating on the next one that I do, and the next one, and the next one. And eventually, that information sort of just starts to pile up and connect together, and you do have this base understanding of the Forgotten Realms that you didn't have before, like knowing where everything is located in the landscape and stuff. Not down to the nitty gritty of like, I know what this river is called without looking at a map, but it's getting there. And eventually you grow into that role that people expect of you, sort of thing. Same thing with DMing. Just get comfortable with the idea that you're a bit uncomfortable to begin with, and everybody is. But your players are really a lot more forgiving in the beginning than you think they are. They're just happy that somebody's running a game for them, Ask them their opinion. Ask them, what should we go, where should we go from here? Do we need any house rules? Like, are you comfortable with that NPC, or would you like somebody else? How's that accent? Shall I keep doing it, or shall I do something else? It's okay to ask questions. Not constantly. Don't belabor them with your anxiety. But just every now and then, get some feedback. Make them understand that it's a cooperative game. When are we getting back to dragons? Very soon, Rational Redneck. Very soon. Thanks, Ricky Mario. Ricky Mario. Thanks to the Obux Obvib. Any further comments on Obux Ob? Pretty much that I think Obux Ob was probably an aspect of Tharizdun's original nightmare, so to speak. And Obux Ob got kind of, when I say that the abyss got lobotomized by the Lady of Pain, that's not the Lady of Pain, the Queen of Chaos. That's what she did. She attacked Obux Ob and slowed down the conversion of the multiverse, so she would have enough time to enact her plan to reign supreme over the other demons. Apparently what I do technically classifies as fan fiction roleplay. Does that make me any less cool? Nope, it doesn't. Because that's a lot of what I do in my videos as well. Whenever I put a little bit of prose in there and make up a bunch of characters who experience something firsthand and writing about it in the videos, that's exactly what I'm doing. Being a DM means it's my time to show off my flamboyant side, and it gets wild when I act out a female character. Each their own, Sky. I don't roleplay shame. Any further comment on the Ixatzar video? I like the idea of the gothic horror Dampiers, and I like the tie-in connection that there may be some sort of connection between the Ixatzar and Dampiers, for instance. I think that's quite cool. Also, imagine playing a wizard who polymorphs, and your character is permanently polymorphed into humanoid form and doing things like a humanoid, but they're actually an Ixodatl. They get killed and they turn into a stingray. What the hell? What? One of the recent campaigns, I think one of the last campaigns that I ran for my group back in Hamilton, my best buddy Ian was playing a Slard who was shapeshifted into the form of barbarian, and he used his Slard abilities like a barbarian shout, but it was like his croak, demonic sort of croak thing, his chaos croak, and all sorts of stuff. He did all sorts of stuff that just drove that campaign crazy. They were essentially on a quest for the Rod of Seven Parts, but they were all at cross purposes as to why they wanted it. It was great. And the other players had no idea he was a Slard. They got so close to unveiling it on various occasions. Like, I'm going to pick up this goggles of trucing and put it on. And Ian's sitting at the table going, oh no, they're going to find out. Oh, thanks, Rational Redneck. Just had your first dose of the COVID vaccination. No side effects. It's perfectly safe. Just a PSA. Yeah. I haven't seen any reports on it being problematic. I think the only thing I saw was some rumours about the Pfizer one being not so effective on people over the age of 65, but I don't know how accurate that is. It may just be hearsay. I like to wait and see for, maybe it's the New Zealand side of me, but I like to wait and see and get confirmed reports on things before I start spreading rumours that I hear. Ad-libbing and doing silly voices is my favourite part, without a doubt. Yep, I sit at home and you know, the only time I talk to myself is when I'm practicing different accents and stuff. Like, I don't talk to myself. I'll talk to the cat, but I don't talk to myself in private. I'm silent all the time. The only time I'll open my mouth and say something and I'll sort of repeat something several times is because I'm trying to get an accent for an NPC that I'm having a conversation with in my head. So you imagine me sitting at a bus stop when I think nobody's around and I'm like, and you know, I'm doing some, you know, tiefling accent. People would think I was crazy. If they came near, I'd just like adjust my Bluetooth and like speak in a foreign language and pretend that I'm like Croatian or something. Hurriedly walk off in the other direction. You can do that these days. Pretend you're on a Bluetooth call. How well are the devils keeping the abyss from spreading? Pretty well. I mean, I caught a lot of people's attention in that last video where I proposed the idea that the nine hells are actually recaptured layers of the abyss that they've stolen back off, you know, the abyss. A pantheon attacked the abyss one time and tried to liberate a layer and got eaten by it and turned into the Ayamura demons. So it's tricky. It's a lot more difficult than people think. The fact that they've captured 9 layers is a pretty huge accomplishment. So there's, I think, the opportunity to include in your campaign that the demons may in fact recapture one of the 9 hells and turn it back into the layer of the abyss is awesome. It also explains why there's so many connections between the abyss and the 9 hells, and they're like fortified against the abyss getting back in, and like that's their whole focus. So it requires that much effort just to keep that which they've recaptured from the abyss away from the abyss again, and the abyss wants it back, you know. And the idea that they could invade the demon web pits and recapture the demon web pits and turn it into a new layer of the 9 hells. How mind-boggling would that be? Now you've got 11 hells, not 9 hells anymore. Everybody has to adjust their thinking. Like, once upon a time it was the 6 hells. Now it's the 9 hells. What? What's this Nesis? You know? So that's an interesting idea. The fact that the outer planes can radically change. Maybe. Who's to say? Cat. The human is talking to me in voices again. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes like Bree will be sitting next to me and I'm silent all the time. I'm just like typing and stuff, and I'll look over. I talk in cat with Bree. I don't talk in human to Bree. I talk in cat, so I squint and I rub her face and make gestures and things like that, and look away and things, and cats talk in a certain language and I speak that language. But every now and then I will say something or remark on something on the internet and she'll be like, oh, you talk, that's right. So she's not really used to like people calling her name and calling her over and stuff. If I want to get her attention, I make scratchy noises with my fingers on something, or I'll just do this with my fingers and she comes over. That's how I call her. Whenever we game together, I have to keep him from slipping into my bad New Zealand accent I use for another character. Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing that, Spike. Yeah. In the game that I'm in with Spike, I'm playing Snicklegrick, who's a deep gnome worshipper of Gelf Darkearth. He's a cleric. And his accent, his voice sounds a lot like mine, but it's just sort of more nasally, and talks. That's how his accent sounds. He's got a big nose. What? I just listened to Rhys Darby on Nerdist podcast with Chris Hardwick. Really? I went to Rhys Darby's. He had a stage performance, How I Became the Best Dancer the Dancing Champion of Taranaki, which was like an hour-long performance, just him on the stage, entertaining people with talking and making up silly noises and just ranting at us for an hour. It was hilarious. Balls of steel to do that, though. Jeez. Can you specialise in a bag of doorknobs? Yeah, that would be an improvised blunt weapon, I believe. Bludgeoning weapon. I'd say it would be the same as a flail. Well, it used to be Snickle Dick. I've changed it to Snickle Rick. Does anyone else find it concerning that Tressums have infiltrated every major merchant house and royal family? World domination plot confirmed. Yeah, true. Bree's doing great. She's a lot bigger than she used to be. Last time you saw her. I'll post some pictures of her. I haven't got her in the room right now because she'll probably finish off the job on the microphone. She doesn't like it when I pay attention to other things. She likes all the attention on her. You've been gnomed. Is a sock full... Oh, you see, you've been reading that same webcomic. Is a sock full of silver coins a silvered weapon? Very good question. I really want to say yes. Look, nothing stops you from filling up a sock with coins, and then stitching coins on the outside of that to make it into a silvered weapon. So you could do that. Or silver thread, right? But if you're just putting coins into a sock, then no, because you've got that woolen barrier between the coins and the target. Yeah, only if the bag bursts would be the thing. But I like, if a player did that at the game table, like, we don't have a silver weapon, give me all your silver coins, and puts it into a sock and like has at it, I would allow it because that's such a good idea. Yeah, she's got a little bit of the red dragon in her. One of her brothers is a ginger tabby, so she's got a lot of ginger fur. She's part feral, so yeah, she's got a lot of red dragon in her for sure. And During the day, when she's very, very active, she's extremely active. Like, she's the most acrobatic cat I've ever met. She'll race across my house and leap at her little tower of brie, because I bought her a cat tower thingy with multiple levels and scratching posts and batty things and stuff. She doesn't sleep in the hammock in it, but she's got this next to me here. While I'm writing, she sits in her cat bed, which is this plush, delicious. I wish I could sleep in this thing. It's so nice. But during the day, when she's very active, or sometimes at midnight, she'll just run around constantly, and she pants like a dog. Have you ever seen a cat doing that? Exercise so hard that they're sitting there going. She does. She eats mostly wet food, some fresh food, mostly wet food. She gets one dried salmon fillet, king salmon fillet per day as a treat, and also as an enrichment thing. She gets these little dental snacks from me here when she's being a good girl while I'm writing. She loves those. And she eats twice a day. And she has her water changed every morning. She has lactose-free cat milk, which I give her every couple of days. She's totally spoiled. I'm looking forward to the time when she goes outside and has a conversation with some of the other neighborhood cats. And says, "What do you eat?" And they're like, "I eat dog food." It's like, I've never eaten wet food in my life. I just eat biscuits. She also has a constantly refilled bowl of cat biscuits, but she doesn't really like them very much. She'll eat them at night time when there's nothing else around. What are you guys talking about gnomes? How do I seduce a song dragon? You don't know that you're seducing a song dragon. That's the entire point. Yeah, I'm a great cat dad. It's true. Alright, everybody, it's time for me to take off. It's kind of been an extra long live stream to make up for the disastrous start to it. That's a good question, Era. What do you think about giving more monsters special weaknesses in the next D&D edition, like how vampires are harmed by running water? I'm okay with it. I think it requires knowledge from the players, from the player characters on how to do that. And I think every time that there's an opportunity to learn a real weakness of a monster, there should also be the opportunity to learn a folklore fake weakness of a monster. This is played on a lot in vampire movies where somebody presents a crucifix at them and the vampire is just like, you don't even believe in that religion, or like, that's only something in the fairy tales, that's just something that's in the movies. It's not real. Like, vampires aren't bothered by it. That's a reflection of our society, really. Shikari, nice to see you. Yeah, you are a little bit late, sorry. It's perfectly fair. You just got to be here earlier. This is like, if you track this, go back an hour earlier next week, and you'll be right on time. Yeah, think of 2 truths and 1 lie for tavern gossip. Yep. You have to have faith for it to work. Exactly. Fright night. Okay, everybody. Catch you later. I'll keep the chat going for a little bit after I turn the camera off, as per usual.